We are taking up sprung rhythm as another literary term in today's class. A technical innovation, we can say, which was introduced into literature by Hopkins. And as we go on and understand the specific features of sprung rhythm, we understand that this is a poetic meter which is approximating to speech. That is, it is a meter. Although Hopkins said that he did not invent it, but in this form of meter, each foot has one stressed syllable, which is followed by the varying number of unstressed syllables. Now, the number of unstressed syllables varies, and there is only one stressed syllable in the foot. This can also be called as a variant of strong stress meter, where we see that each foot, it begins with a stress syllable. Now, this stress syllable can either stand alone or can be associated with one or three light syllables. To understand it in a very descriptive way, we need to take up a poem by Hopkins. When we will taking his poem, we will talk about how the construction goes when we have a stress syllable and an associated one or three light syllables. This type of rhythm was designed to imitate the rhythm of natural speech, to actually give the poem a kind of a natural quality. That means because in a natural speech, we don't speak in a prescribed rhythmic or metered way. And therefore, we say that it is constructed from a feat in which the first syllable is stressed and variable number of unstressed syllables. The British poet, as we said, G.M. Hopkins, he said he did not invent it. He said he discovered this previously unnamed poetic rhythm in natural patterns of English because he found that folk songs, spoken poetry, Shakespeare, Milton, all such poets, they have been using this kind of a meter in their poems. And he also said that it has been used by Greek and Old English verses also. And once I just quote here because Hopkins has written something in a letter to Bridges, Robert Bridges. He says, now, what is it like? It is the rhythm of Greek tragic choruses of Pindar, which is pure sprung rhythm. And so he said that he is not the inventor. Hopkins has used diacritical marks on syllables to indicate which should be stressed in cases, because at times we know that the reader might be in doubt which syllable should have the stress. Say for example, acute, example sheer, and which syllable should be pronounced but not stressed, brave, example glean. So in such words, the readers are confused. So he used some diacritical marks also in his poems to indicate what should be stressed. Why did Hopkins say that or was very fond of writing in sprung rhythm? Was because he believed that everything in the universe was characterized by what he called inscape. Now, inscape, according to Hopkins, was the distinctive design that constituted individual identity. And identity, he further says, is not never static but dynamic. And he says that each being in this universe enacts his identity. The human beings who are most sensitive about their identities, and also they are the most individually distinctive beings in the universe, recognize the inscape of other beings. Now, this recognition is an act which Hopkins calls instress. And he said that apprehension of an object in an intense thrust of energy towards it, This is something which enables someone to realize the specific distinctiveness of individuals. And ultimately, he said that the in stress of inscape leads one to Christ, that is, leads one to higher self, because the individual identity of any object in this universe is obviously the stamp of divine creation. So, gradually, this is a journey about realizing the in stress and taking us, the realization of inscape, which leads us, and in stress is the journey which leads. These were the two terms which were again coined by G.M. Hopkins and developed by into theories, what he constituted poetries. Actually, by in stress, he says there is some natural essence, and he says that inscape, in his words, is the individual or essential quality of anything. And this is what Hopkins calls as individually distinctive quality or beauty. He says if inscape is the body, in stress is the soul, which makes the body act the way it wishes to behave. And again, we must know that all creation, he said, is by the word. That is, we know that human identity is God's image, and we have learned speech through God only, and no two creation words are ever spoken alike. So a copy of a copy will not look alike. So they have their distinctive or unique quality, and these are the complementary concepts Hopkins borrowed from, say, we can say that Duns Scotus, he gave the concept of thisness. So thisness, concept of thisness, borrowed by Hopkins and presented in such a way that he talked about the individual concepts of uniqueness and individuality. Taking a closer look again, the definition of inscape is particular features of any landscape, any natural structure, or human beings which make it different from any other. One river different from another river, one human being different from another human being, one tree different from another tree. And the theological belief behind this was that God never repeats himself. Since Hopkins was a poet artist, he determined what was special about any scene. He knew what is special about an oak tree and what is special about another oak tree. What is special about a person called X and what is special about a person called Y. And his notebooks, it is said that they show or reveal a tremendous care, because he noted down everything in detail, what he thinks is unique about a particular sunset. Even the sunset will not look the same all days. We have every day when we look at the sunset, it has a peculiar quality of its own. So what is peculiar was written down by Hopkins. Even the cloud formation, we all know that the clouds don't form shapes, the same shape every day. The waves also don't rise up in the same manner. So each and everything in this universe, created by God, doesn't repeat itself. And this is what lends it a distinctive or individual quality. In stress, on the other hand, is the experience of the reader. Say, for example, you're watching a sunset today, and then you watch a sunset tomorrow again. The kind of experience, the difference that you have, or the experience that you gain during the watching of the sunset today and tomorrow, how you perceive and receive this image into your sight, into your memory and imagination, this is in stress. That means it is the experience. And he further says that the poet's job is to find those images which are made in the minds. And those images will nail the Inkscape down for readers. Now, this is very important because only those images which are captured by the poet and different images, if they can be recaptured by the readers, or the recapturing of the poet's perception and experience by the readers, also gives them an experience of in-stress. So, this is how the readers and the poet unite and they come down at the same level of consciousness. These terms are related to the uniqueness and individuality. And therefore, Hopkins said that I have given nothing new because this was an idea which was prevalent earlier also. Earlier also, people watched natural scenes, landscape, human beings in a different way. So this was an ancient ideas. And therefore, he says that medieval theologian and philosopher Duns Scotus, when he gave the concept of thisness, and he is also followed by the Romantic poets, Hopkins believed that since it was nothing new, in every age, it is the artist's job or responsibility to perceive and express such uniqueness that surrounds him, either in his art or through his words. So a painter would not convey the same sunset if he makes the same painting the second time. Similarly, the poet will not use the same words if he writes the same poem, second time. So Hopkins felt that it is the writer's job or the artist's job to express this uniqueness and give the readers a kind of excitement and surprise, also to experience this concept of uniqueness which is given to us by God. His attempts, Hopkins, when he describes Inkscape in landscapes or seascapes, he talks of inner laws. So, when he talks of inner laws, we can say that this in-stress or the experience that we gain when we watch an event, it is like an intuition. Because this is a sudden perception of some inner law which is working inside us. And therefore, Hopkins was specially fascinated by certain parallel lines because there was one such law of form which was given to us by the universe or by God. And therefore, he argues that parallelism is the Inkscape of poetry. If at all we find certain parallel lines in these forms, inner laws, this is the Inkscape of poetry. He again says that in Hebrew poetry, there was not much to apply to Hopkins because he quoted his ancients in borrowing these concepts. But he says the Hebrew poetry or the earlier ancient poetry, the figures of speech, the metaphors, the similes, or some all such elements, antitheses, they are like parallels of thought because one object is given a certain metaphor by one poet. The same object, when noted down or creatively written down by another artist, would be given a second kind of a metaphor. But they both are parallel because they are working on the same object. So he says, while repeating patterns of rhythm, rhyme, and alliterations, it can also come as the parallels of sounds at times. Hopkins tried to establish Inkscape in particular words because he said that sounds which are produced by a combination of senses, it helps us to distinguish references. Say for example, dandled a sandaled or hack and rack from Bisney poplars. So these compound words, they are another words to express the Inkscape of poetry. And when we take two familiar words and put them together, it becomes a fusion and we produce a certain unique sense. Say, when we have two words, bell and swarmed, lark and charmed. Now, this is again being borrowed by Duns Scotus when he remarked this. This kind of language, it needs constant refreshment, because if you don't refresh it or change it, the combinations, if you don't change the sound and sense combinations, there will be no inscape. So to produce a better inscape, the fusions of sound and sense need to be changed frequently, and we need to create parallels of sound and sense, because this is how variety happens.